Let's get the thoughts of our paper reviewers, Liam Thorp and Claire Ellicott, who, as you can see, are in the screen behind me. Liam, Claire, thank you so much for your patience this evening. It's got quite busy suddenly. And let's just pick up, Claire, if we can, on where we find ourselves right now with a man who was president, wants to be president again, but now faces hugely serious charges in a Manhattan court.
I mean, it's an absolutely extraordinary story. It was broken by the New York Times just a few minutes ago. And this would be an incredible thing. You know, he is a former US president. He'd be the first in history to be convicted of something like this if the indictment goes ahead. And so it's, he's a president whose entire time in office was dogged by controversy. And he's standing again next time in the next elections next year. This is going to hang over him. It's clear that we'll find out in the coming days what exactly he's indicted of, because this is all a sealed indictment. We don't know the exact details yet, but it involves a tawdry sort of accusations about a porn star, Stormy Daniels, and whether or not she was paid hush money and what happened as a result of that. And this is a former president of the United States. The prospect of him going in with the Secret Service protection he has to be, fingerprinted and photographed, mugshot taken. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. He'll appear in front of a judge. And as we've heard from your correspondents, he's doing well in the Republican run-up. He's doing well in the polls, and his closest competitor, the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, is trailing behind him. So you have to think that, this would upset Trump's campaign for next year, not least because it will no doubt drag on. And he's facing other investigations as well. I think there are 3 other investigations which are deemed to be more serious than this one. So he's in a lot of trouble. But as usual, he's painting this as a political witch hunt. He's saying, that the people who oppose his views are coming after him. His son's statement to that, speaks to that. He's clearly, rattled by this. He's said to be in his Mar-a-Lago mansion in Florida processing all of this at the moment. But the prospect of him, being hauled into a New York courtroom in the coming days, it's absolutely extraordinary. It would be a real moment in American history.
Yeah, another one, Claire. I mean, processing, probably one thing, raging, I think, as well. And Liam, it's just remarkable, isn't it? That, of all the things that we've seen happen with Donald Trump, from the allegation that he colluded with Russia was bad, to indicting a riot on Capitol Hill, and now the fact that he could well be facing, he's going to face a judge, could well face trial, but still, as Claire was laying out, is ahead in the polls, and it's not clear whether or not he'll still be able to run, or if he gets elected, will be able to be president.
Well, I mean, what James, your correspondent, just said about Trump potentially, journalists in America now are trying to write pieces about whether Trump could be a serving president from behind bars. It's just the most extraordinary thing. I can't quite believe I'm saying that on television. It's an incredible story. And I think it really speaks to these febrile times that we're in. There would have been a time, and, you could look at Richard Nixon or other people, where a scandal like this, a news like this, would just be the end of a political career. But actually, this will ignite Trump's base. That's the quite scary thing. You just mentioned what happened on January the 6th. We saw how scary things can get when he fires up that base, when he claims conspiracy, when he claims witch hunt. And that's in some ways, this is even more explosive than that. When those pictures of him, and, hearing your last guest say, okay, I think we all could guess that he's going to go for the very public route on this. He's going to fire it up.
I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's been going on in Park City, Utah. Claire, you look like you may have been. I'm not sure. But it looks like Gwyneth Paltrow, according to the jury there, did not do it. And now Terry Sanderson owes her $1.
It's extraordinary. It's a big night for US news, isn't it? So Gwyneth Paltrow, the actress, she seems to have won this case, which I think Terry Sanderson brought it. So it's interesting that she seems to have won everything. They were counter-suing each other, and she demanded $1. He was suing for $300,000. But I believe he also has to pay her legal fees now, which I'd imagine is a quite substantial amount of money. But the actress has come in every day and sat through this trial, looking, pristine, and she gave a little smile there as the verdict was read out. But, she was obviously accused of harming this man and causing, huge injuries to him, breaking his ribs and, other injuries. And I think he suggested she was distracted by her children being on the ski slopes at the time where all this happened. And she obviously took real umbrage with this. So it's quite an extraordinary case. And, the fact that she's been there the entire time and, she's, this really famous actress, it's quite extraordinary. And, she's won now. So, yeah, I guess a good day for her.
Yeah, I guess it is a good day for her. And as you're right, Claire, I think Terry Sanderson will have to pay her legal fees, which could be quite substantial. But I guess, Liam, the thing about this, it's another trial in America with famous people, and just the fact that we get to sort of see them having to go through this is captivating in and of itself, even though, this one didn't have sort of a lot of the peril that some of the recent trials that we've watched had in them, or some of the drama. But still, it was a case of who did this, who was the downhill skier, who was the uphill skier. Some of the detail was quite entertaining at times.
Yeah, as a journalist who's sat in courts in this and covered stories in this country, and obviously we're not allowed cameras in, and you have to kind of use your skills to bring to life the human drama, which we just sat and watched there. It's extraordinary to watch it happening live, and sometimes you forget that in America that is the norm. A comprehensive win for Gwyneth Paltrow, and I haven't been following it really closely, but I know that obviously the case was brought against her. Terry Sanderson was claiming that he's been badly injured and he's had really bad repercussions from this. So it's a really sort of huge defeat for him. Not only did they find that she wasn't at fault, they found that he was at fault, and she's not demanding a lot of money because she's a multimillionaire, but it's this nominal fee to kind of say, look, I've had to sit through this. She is a human being. She might be super famous and very rich, but it can't have been nice. As Claire said, she's gone there every day, and it's probably pretty traumatic. So she'll be feeling pretty good right now. But yeah, just as you say, an extraordinary spectacle to watch play out. I'm wondering what news is coming next from America tonight, to be honest.
I'm sorry about this, guys. It has been quite the evening for American news, hasn't it? And Claire, just on that thing, the courtroom drama, it's always, I don't know if this tells you too much about me, but it's always my best bit in some of these films. So we get to the courtroom drama moment, because it becomes really real, doesn't it then? You're under oath, you can't lie, you got to tell the truth, and that's when you really reveal parts about people, and that's what was so fascinating in this case. I don't know if you saw Terry Sanderson pulled back to the stand and was sort of torn apart for some posts on his social media after the accident.
Yeah, and every day she's been there and dressed up and being dragged into the courtroom every day. This doesn't happen in the UK, as Liam says. We sit there and we take shorthand notes. There have been, I think, a few trials of televising court trials, but in the UK, but that's not happened yet. And in the US, you do get to sit through every single moment of it, and you get to see a famous Hollywood actress put on the stand and having to give evidence. It's remarkable, really, and it has been a fascinating case to follow. I think Taylor Swift has come out. There have been various other mentions of famous people, and it just shows you, I guess, sometimes these extraordinary people do actually have quite run-of-the-mill things happen to them, and we get to watch it all play out. It's showbiz, I guess.
Yeah, it is very showbiz. All right, guys, thank you very much for that. It's a sharp gear change now, if you don't mind. We're going to move on to look at some of our domestic newspapers now. Jane and Liam, we're going to start with you. We're going to start with your newspaper and the front page that we've got there. Covering court cases, of course, you will have been in court for the past few covering this, and there is the front page of the Echo for tomorrow morning, following the conviction of Thomas Cashman.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually myself in court. Our crime reporter and our court reporter have spent the last sort of 3.5 weeks covering this incredibly distressing, complicated, delicate, difficult trial. And I'd like to pay tribute to them for their extraordinary coverage of this. It's vital. We don't have cameras in the courts like in America. It's vital, the role of the court reporter in this country, that justice is seen to be done through them. And it's a really challenging case, as you can imagine, both legally and emotionally. Liverpool is in mourning for Olivia Pratt-Corbell. We have been since she was tragically taken in the most horrific circumstances. And while, of course, today's result will not bring her back, all we can all hope is that it brings a semblance of peace to her amazing, courageous, dignified family. We saw Cheryl Corbell outside the courtroom celebrating with Olivia's toy in a really emotional scene. And I just wanted to say, on our front page today, our editorial team have made a decision that we wanted Olivia to be on our front page, not Thomas Cashman, not a scowling, evil thug who was so brazenly shot into a domestic house. We wanted to celebrate her amazing life. Her mum talks about her being, nosy, cheeky, funny, her shadow, this wonderful little girl who we will not be able to see grow up because of that man, and justice was served today, and we're all very relieved.
Yeah, her mum called her the baby, didn't she? It's just a really sort of touching way of describing her little girl and the tragic circumstances in which she died. Let's move on to the front page of the Mail. And here on what you said, Liam, about court reporters being in the room to make sure that these things are covered. And on the front page of the Mail, Claire, here, we've got the sort of the juxtaposition of lovely Olivia and then the man convicted of the killing, and a really shocking picture on the front page of the paper. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that, is there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary. He's a drug dealer, this Thomas Cashman man, and he's been found guilty now. He's going to be, I think, sentenced next week. It's a horrific trial, and just contrasting, this cute little girl, totally innocent, playing in our house. I think she's just about to go to bed, and this man comes running in the house. He's trying to execute someone else, and she gets caught in the crossfire. It sadly reminds me of another case, Rhys Jones. It was a huge case in Liverpool back in the day. He was a young boy. He was 11 years old. He got caught in the crossfire in another similar circumstance. And actually, I was on the Liverpool Echo at the time, and when his murder was being tried in court. And, it's a repeated story. You hear all these stories about drug dealers, and I think some of the other front pages have mentioned that the police officer leading the investigation into Olivia's murder, he actually said that anybody who uses recreational drugs in the UK is to blame for this case, because the gangland murders, the history of drugs, county lines, it's had a real effect on this country. And Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, has been announcing a crackdown on antisocial behaviour in recent weeks because it does blight communities and it leads to sad cases like this. And Liverpool is a community that is going through another case like this again, and it shouldn't be happening. It's desperately unfair, and something does really need to be done about the drugs that are blighting the whole of the UK.
Yeah, Claire, I really do appreciate that, and I'm really glad that we managed to get to that front page, guys. We've got to leave it there because we've got more US news coming, but appreciate your time. Really delighted we got to see those front pages. Liam, Thorp and Claire Ellicott, thank you so much for your time this evening.